Good everyone. I hope you guys had an amazing day. So what I'll do today, I'll do a very brief, tiny episode around uh, the PSS users because obviously what happens, right? When you go and recommend this product, let's say to a business, the first thing they will be asking you, right? Tell me the use case. Who will be using PSS, right? Okay, it's great. Salesforce has a great product, but you need to, you know, build a use case scenario, right? Um, who will be using it. So that's one of the things we will be looking at it. The reason why the PSS will be useful for some of the public sector areas, and based on that, we're going to look at who will be using it, right? So as I said, right, in one of my previous video when I started the series, right, um, PSS is often targeted for government agencies, right? If I put it in a very simple way, that because the government agencies have multiple systems, different use cases, and obviously the citizen of that specific nation interacts with government agencies to receive a certain service, right? And the government agencies offer services. Now there is always a time. I mean, it doesn't matter which part of the world you're from, right? Let me take New Zealand, for instance, right? Like I said, if you are a nation of 5.2 million people, our government agencies, it's pretty okay when it comes to delivering service. But that being said, there were instances where they were not very efficient, right? So the people were very frustrated. There was no, um, I won't say accountability is a problem. It's the transparency that's an issue, right? Because people are doing their job, but the kind of systems they were using, they were not really giving transparent information to the customer who wants to, uh, call and ask for, let's say, for instance, if you are a saloon, hair saloon guy, right? So you obviously need to apply for a certain kind of license. I don't know much about how the saloon works. I'm just making this up. Um, or a restaurant owner, right? So you need to get some kind of license, right? If you're selling alcohol, which some of the restaurants do, so right, you need to get for a liquor permit. Now, there is an application involved, and that application get processed by obviously who are looking at, let's say, the case officer who's looking at the application or the application officer, and there might be some kind of feedback, right? So the feedback might be given to you in the form of a mailbox, a physical mail, or in an email or whatever format, right? So sometimes the things get missed. You're Even if they're using electronic system, right? Even if they're sending out an email, then most likely that what might happen at times that email might arrive in a junk inbox. When that happens, you might tend to miss that, right? And then case officer might think, hey, why is not responding? So they might decline your application. So that can cause frustration, right? So business owners, right? They're the first user who will be able to leverage a transparent based system where there is a bi-directional communication between the person who's looking at your case and the person who applied for, say, a grant or a license or something, right? So here, as you can see that, right, business owners might want to interact with different agencies for fulfilling certain requirements, and sometimes what happens is that you might have to renew your license. And at times I've seen that they normally send uh, still a P-mail that's called a physical mail. I call it as a P-mail, that's a physical mail, and email that's electronic mail, right? So they sometimes do send out an email as well. But like I said, at times your email might get routed to a spam folder. So as a matter of fact, you might end up missing it, and when you don't renew it, you might end up in paying fines, right? Now, what PSS will do, right? Um, you can log in as a portal as a user or as a business owner, and then you can see the status of your application, and then you get a text or SMS or whatever, right? And then you can also log into the portal to see or you can get an automatic update or whatever, right? So I mean, that kind of things can be solved. So the business owners will be one of the users, I would say, who will be using PSS, right? And then individuals, right? You wanted to apply for some kind of professional license, right? Like a sports license or whatever, right? A coaching license, uh, a driver license, right? Parking permits and what have you, right? So you can do that using PSS as well, right? Um, so and also, what might happen, right? Some people are not aware of options that's available from the government agencies in terms of assistance. For instance, like it's unfortunate, right? In New Zealand, like a lot of restructuring is going on. People are losing their job. I'm pretty sure you can relate in your part of the world as well, which is unfortunately is a difficult time, right? So, but that being said, in New Zealand, the government agencies offer help in the form of the social benefits. So most people are not aware of that, so they have to go through different websites. Now think about a scenario where every information you can access from one place, right? So that kind I'm not saying that this is gonna the way it works, but I'm just telling you a use case, right? Now, and also, sometimes even if you talk about filling an application, like some people do not know how to fill it, right? They still believe I need to go to post office, buy a form, sorry, get a form. You don't have to buy a form; it's free. So you get a form and fill it, and you give it to the counter, and the person will process it, right? Think about it. Now you have an online application where you can fill it, right? So everything so the PSS is going to help digitize uh, the processes, right? So individual user, business owner, these are the user, right? So because obviously we are talking about the user, then compliance officer who often looks at the compliance, right? So they will be looking at certain compliance, so they can use the PSS app and other stuff. Then inspection officer who often goes and inspect, like for instance, if food and safety officers who often goes and check for the safety related aspect uh, in a restaurant or other place, right, where the safety is the highest important. So they might have to look at certain codes to validate if this business meets the safety standard. So they can't obviously carry a laptop, right? It's a kind of a difficult thing to do. I'm not saying they can, but it's it's not really preferred approach, right? Because why would you want to carry a laptop and you can access a lot of information using your cell phone? Now, if you have an app, PSS app, where you have all the codes from one location, you can obviously look into it, and you can also file certain case or kind of a lodge a complaint using the same app. It will sync with the main, org. So that kind of things you can do. So the inspection officers will be one of the best candidate for using this product, right? And the reviewer and compliance officer, person who needs to review your application. Doesn't matter, it's a grant you're applying for or the license you're applying for or other stuff, right? So different people, like the people who works in the back office, right? They are not a front facing at times. Yeah, I mean front facing in the sense they're kind of a friend facing, but they're approver team, right? People who approves it, not really talk to the customer. They are like more like a supervisor level people, right? Then you have, like I said, inspector and caseworker, the people who work on the case. Analyst is normally people who look at the customer feedback or to see how the customer are responding to the previous case. Officer, incident solving time, as well as the solving capability, and as well as how the person responded to the individual or the business owner to help in terms of solving an issue or which they've raised. For instance, they might be interested to know the time taken for a person or a case officer to approve a license application and the feedback which customer gave on basis of that. So analysts will look at the data. They can pretty much use machine learning capability or Einstein, or we can build their own models. There are a lot of great things you can do, right? So these are one of the people, and you can also look at the reporting aspect. Then you have Salesforce admins who will configure stuff for you in terms of PSS, right? Which fields to be visible, which fields not to be visible. So obviously these people won't be getting admin access because admin access is quite limited, right, to the right people. And it's not a great practice to give admin access to everyone because then you're giving um, people data, right? People sorry, the information about the people data to someone who's not authorized to view it. So you can't really do that. So sysadmins usually are the people who are the trusted member of an organization. They trust you with the data privacy, and obviously they have to sign NDA and other kind of stuff, right? So not everyone gets sysadmin access. The place where I'm helping, one of the biggest government agencies in New Zealand in terms of architecture. So we have a lot of compliance and governance in place to ensure only the right people get access to the right data set, right? So that's important, and PSS is one of the important part which we use as well. So that's the reason why I thought, hey, let me teach you guys some PSS and explain to you some of the PSS the use case. For now, just think about this, right? This is a session about who will be using PSS, right? So these are the few actors who will be using it, but you might have different use case. I'm not saying that all the use case will be confined to this. This is what Salesforce says. But in our case, we have different use cases, which I really can't discuss because some of them are NDAs, but uh, you might have different use cases as per your business requirement, right? So for now, just think about this like application reviewers, case, sysadmins. They're one of the users who will be using PSS, right? So, and that's why it's very important for me to cover this, because otherwise the business will ask, why do we need PSS? What problem we're trying to solve? And who will be the users, right? So if you do not know who will be the user, then it's very difficult to get the buy-in from your stakeholder, right? So remember that if you're an architect or a consultant, a developer, it doesn't matter. You need to understand what business problem you're trying to solve, right? And who will be the users who will be using it, right? So the users who will be using it and the problem you're trying to solve for them. That's the important key. So that's all I wanted to cover in this episode. Hope you guys have an amazing Friday. Adios.